Hey everybody, it is November 29th, 2013's weekly wrap-up. Actually, Black Friday, one day after Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving everybody. And I don't know, are you out there doing the Black Friday thing right now? And when you get home you can take a look at this? I don't know how that works. Or even if it's that big of a deal. I guess for some it is and for some it isn't. Anyway, here at Totally Vocals on Black Friday, I can talk to you a little bit about what's been going on in the news with us. And of course, it's the harmony course. Of course it's the harmony course. Of course it's the harmony course. And we're up to step 12, and step 12 is a clip that actually asks you to listen to a major chord, identify the root, sing the root, hold that note, and let the third and the fifth come in against you. Another little tiny step of you getting better at hearing a harmony blend around you while you hold a part, and even be able to actually identify and find that particular part. And even though it's just one chord that we're doing it to right now, what you're setting yourself up to do is really learn how to be on the root, the third, or the fifth, like all good harmony singers can do. And there's sevenths and ninths and elevenths too if you're into jazz choirs and those types of things. But right now we'll just talk about the basics. The basics, like in everything, is if you're strong in the basics, then you're going to be strong. And the harder stuff is really easier. It's kind of that way in everything. It doesn't matter if it's learning how to play a musical instrument or play tennis. You got to be really good at the basics. And now about the musical tip of the week. Well, besides our news that we do here, and besides all the clips that we're releasing, we also have a forum, and sometimes students come on and tell us problems that they're having or ask for suggestions and so forth. And we had that exact thing happen this week. One of our students is talking about vibrato, says he's been working on the vibrato course, and still starting to get a little bit of vibrato, but he doesn't feel like it's coming as quickly, or it's not happening for him yet. And so I wrote a little bit in the forum, and you can go to the forum and see what I wrote. But besides what I wrote in the forum, I promised that I would talk about it in today's weekly wrap-up. And so that's what we're going to do. And again, as usual, through the magic of virtual, I'm going to change position so I can get to my piano right now and talk a little bit about vibrato and have access to my keyboard in a little bit different position than we're in right now. So, here we go. Bam! Here I am. Magical, huh? Okay, so, like I was just saying, let's get into this vibrato problem with you, John, and because that's who wrote on the forum. And you wrote back, anybody can read it on the forum, that you're spending about 45 minutes 3 to 5 times each week working on the lessons 1 through 10 in the vibrato course. Well, that's a lot of work. And so I do think that we need to address this. I know that if you were right here in my studio, what I would look for right off is to make sure, or to find out, if any of those first lessons resonated more for you than any of the other ones, and then that is the one that you should be working on instead of trying to work on all of them. So let me give you my philosophy on the way I did the vibrato course. There are a lot of different opinions and ways of getting people to start to establish a little bit of vibrato. I said all of these things in the course, but I'm going to say a little bit right now again. You're going to run into teachers who say, you know, don't even try to develop a person's vibrato, just solve their other musical problems. Meaning, if they have a tight throat, if they're off balanced, if they're doing something that's causing their voice to strain, the vibrato's not going to be there because the muscles aren't relaxed and you aren't moving and undulating in a balanced larynx way. So lots of teachers take the approach of not developing vibrato, but trying to take away some of the tension in the throat in various different ways, and sort of wait for it to happen. And sometimes that's exactly what happens. And at times that's what I would do. When I'm working with students, vibrato is not the very first thing I work on. I actually work on other things that are going to help them develop their range and sing through their registers like I'm always talking about. And lots of times, just doing those things, the vibrato starts to come in naturally. One of the big reasons for vibrato not being there, like I said, is that we've got tight muscles. But why do we have tight muscles? That's what's important to understand. And lots of times, I hate to sound so redundant, and that this is the catch-all, fix-all magic bullet to everything, but so often it's just about pushing too much air too hard through the chords. If you try to sing too loud and too powerful before you understand or have a physical muscle reflex to what it is that's going on with your vibrato, it may not be there. Later on, it's just there naturally. Now I'm going to do this. And I'm purposely holding this note with vibrato, with no vibrato. Now, for me, my vibrato's there naturally. All I have to do is say to myself, stop trying to stop it from happening and just relax, and my vibrato will come in like this. And there it is. Now, if you're thinking, well, he's a professional singer, he's been doing this forever. I have been doing this forever. I am a professional singer, but I promise you and tell you, look into the eyes here, that I had problems with vibrato, that I couldn't get my vibrato to happen at a certain point in time in my life. And then another point in time in my life, I tried so hard to make it happen that I kind of got a fast one and it didn't sound all that great. Then I had to work to get that to slow down a little bit so it fell within the realm of what I'm always saying a good vibrato is, which is somewhere between 4 and 8 pulsations per second. I said all of this in the course. But I sort of want to set this up and go back to what I was saying about philosophy. So what my philosophy was with those first lessons in the vibrato course is to give you different easy ins. So if balancing out your chords and singing more relaxed isn't getting the vibrato, then you start to do these things to develop vibrato within the vibrato course. And the first thing is that I call those easy ins because there are all kinds of different ways that different types of teachers might introduce it to their students. And I decided that I would put them all in there. Because, like the psychology cartoon that I saw when I was in college, where one sign said walk on the sidewalks and the other said keep off the grass, they both mean the same thing, but different things speak to us and we sort of process things in different ways. So I'm talking a lot here, but I'm going to quickly say to you, and you can answer back to me on the forum, and we can work on this for a while, not just today. Now, if the things that I suggest today still don't solve your problem, I want you to continue to communicate with me because I think it would be fun, absolutely, to help you with your problem, and simultaneously everybody watch the progress as to what's going on. So here's what I'm going to say today. I'm going to say, and maybe you have the answer to this and you can get back to me quickly. I asked you on the forum. Is there any one of those easy ins that seem to work more for you than the others? And if there is, I want to know which one it is. That's number one. The other is, when you say that you're working for 45 minutes on the vibrato course, what do? Just go to lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? I mean, that would be logical, and I could understand that maybe that's what you're doing. Is that what you're doing, just going from one to the next, and then hoping for the best, but nothing is quite happening? And if that's so, and you'll see again in the course, I address that and keep on saying, hey, don't worry if you don't have it yet. And you did make one mention, and that mention was that maybe you're a little impatient about getting this. And you're right, sometimes it takes quite a while to develop a vibrato. It can take weeks, months, as much as a year to really make it happen. But there's so many things that can happen while you're working on that to get it in complete control. One other little comment I'd like to make to you, John, is you mentioned the fact that you have a gig and you're playing 3 to 6 gigs a week, and where you're singing without vibrato and worrying if what you're doing there is hindering your progress in vibrato. And I will say that the only thing in that direction that could be hindering your progress is if you sing so hard that you're trashed after your performances, that your voice is tired, and then trying to work on the exercises that could be a hindrance. But if your voice is not tired, don't worry about those two things conflicting each other. Go do your gig. Hey, you got a gig. In today's economy, that's an awesome thing. So it's great that you're out there doing that. And I work with professionals all the time, and regardless of what their problems are, they still have to go out and perform. And so I always take the approach that if I do the things the right way, slowly but surely, it'll incorporate itself into their muscle memory, and not to say, oh, this is hurting that or that's doing that. But if you blow too hard, which people do on gigs if their monitor systems aren't right, I talk about that stuff all over the site and other times, but if your throat is trashed, then yeah, then the exercises could be hindering each other. But other than that, if you're rested when you're practicing the vibrato exercises, and you go out and you sing your gig and you sing it the way you sing it, don't worry about it. In time, those two things will come together. It's always better, which we'll get into down the road here, it's always better to maybe practice some songs that are really asked for really cool vibrato and practice them as new songs so you don't sort of jump into the muscle memory of a song that you've been singing for years, for example. Even that will change, but it's easier to change new material when we get to it. So John, if you're here in my studio with me and you had been doing what you were doing and you're still having a little bit of trouble, I certainly would be feeding you sustaining notes, asking you to try these various different easy ends, might even come over there and push on you a little bit and get you to do a couple different things just to see what you would produce by doing that. So since we're in virtual land, we're going to sort of do that, but we'll do it in steps. So today's step is go through all the exercises again, but this time with a different thought and intent. Is there any one of those, like the one that goes where you sing the two notes, and you start to speed it up a little faster and faster? That's another easy in or another approach to getting people to sort of feel the fluctuation. So you're really sort of singing a minor second, but finally it gets smaller than a minor second. And just kind of goes, and you kind of don't. It's not a big feeling, and if you try to feel like it's a big feeling, then you'll probably get the reaction that you've been getting, that you were explaining to me, is that it doesn't feel natural. I'm sort of getting it, but I feel like I'm really have a lot of effort involved in it. And I love your explanations to me because they help me diagnose what's going on with you. And so a lot of talk here, maybe even telling you mostly what you could just see me say on the course anyway, but to sort of set this up and get things going. I'm asking you to look for, of all of those easy ends from lesson 1 up to 10, which are the ones that seem like if they're working at all or helped you sort of think about it, which ones are they? I want to know that. I don't know if you've ever looked at any of the Sinatra lessons, the Frank Sinatra lessons that I put down. I think I sang somewhere around 15 different songs. And one of the things that I said that I learned that he had done when I started to learn his music was that he always tapered off the ends of a phrase. So in other words, he started off a little louder, and decrescendoed, got softer. And what happens is that your throat gets a different effect, because as you're decrescendoing, you're also getting quieter, and it means that you're pushing less air through the chord again. Another thing to discover. Even if what you ultimately want to be is a Led Zeppelin singer singing heavy-duty rock or even metal with a big gigantic vibrato, that's the power is not in the beginning like in everything else in sports as well. And like I say, I think that singing is just another physical sport. There's learning how to really use this instrument in a physical way, the way you would do anything else for any other musical instrument or any other sport. So decrescendoing with a little hum, and does it come in? And again, if it doesn't, or decrescendo and then do that little handshaking exercise that I had as one of the easy ends, like And another one on the course, very similar to that with the handshake, was that you would come up, hold a high note, I'll do it here in a second, and then come back down. So you're coming up and shaking on the high note. Ooh, like ooh. And guess what? You think you're working on the vibrato on the high note, but you're really working on the vibrato for the low note on that exercise. And again, the idea is to maybe kickstart your neuromuscular system into feeling this pulsation and starting to get your mind and your voice box to sort of undulate the way I'm telling you is what really true vibrato is. Now, I can't tell you how many students have said, do I produce the vibrato here or do I produce the vibrato here? And here meaning, from the diaphragm. And again, it's not as clear-cut as it sounds. I know there's teachers who are going to say, oh yes it is, oh yes it is. It really isn't. I mean, we're learning more. We're almost 2014 and we're starting to really learn more about it. And we are finding out that it's like a tremor, an actual tremor of the whole voice box, the whole cage undulating when it happens right. Now, there's also the people that go, well, what about when I see like even Whitney Houston going, oh, yeah, and doing something weird with their jaw when they're doing it. Those ways of producing vibrato work against you over the long run. If you start to try to use too much outside strong physical muscles, you may be able to do it and you may actually get a cause and effect from that, but in the long run, it becomes too much work on the outside of your body. So it's better to learn internally. Now, let me finish my thoughts here. Are you producing vibrato from the diaphragm or are you producing vibrato in the throat? And honestly, every good person that I have ever met who is really good at producing vibrato, they're supporting from here, but they can all feel, whether they want to talk about it or not, they can feel the undulation of the voice box moving in their throat. So in a sense, I have to say that the vibrato does come from the throat. The pulsation of air, you can kind of get that Bee Gees, if anybody even knows who the Bee Gees are at this point, you can get that you can get that little thing going. And again, if you can kickstart that and that sort of finally gets you to go, fine. But what do I feel? I'll tell you what I feel. I feel that I'm holding my air, that I am in fact supporting my air the way I should, that my rib cage is expanded, but in a very natural way, not overdone. And I can feel the vibrato happening in here. Do I feel it a lot? Well, I can feel that. I don't feel the voice box moving, but I can feel the pulsation changing when I'm doing that, but it's very natural. And obviously here on the weekly news, I can't turn this into a full half an hour's lesson, but if we do it in little parts like we're doing, and you have the patience and actually maybe find this as fun, I do, to work on it for the next couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, who knows, whatever it takes, depending upon the information I get from you and the success that you start to have. But we're going to start with that first step, and I think that's a good place to wrap up the news for right now, and I'll be looking forward to what I hear from you. I'll be watching for it on the forum. And I will respond to it again in our weekly news next week. So, see you then.